Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people that want the best info, but just don't have the time. Get your podcast fix with the Cliff Notes versions of your favorite podcasts. No fluff, just the actionable golden nuggets. Having this much knowledge at your fingertips should be downright illegal. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with Satori Prime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. So if you haven't signed up to our PEP list, which we basically send you a recap email once a week about this week's shows, make sure you head over to performancepodcasts.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end. And when you do that, you can even pick up 6 hours of subliminal training. That means that using this training, you can go to work on things like speed reading, memory, and even how to be more decisive through subliminal messaging. You just turn it on and you listen to it. So make sure you go ahead and grab that. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to our show and you listen to it via iTunes or Stitcher, we've made it really easy for you to do that. Again, you can go over to performancepodcasts.com/iTunes if you prefer to use iTunes. And if you prefer Stitcher, again, performancepodcasts.com/Stitcher. And remember, we have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday morning, so make sure you check those out. Lastly, I just want to let you know of a couple of things. If you want to keep up with everything that we do here at Satori Prime, you can always just head over to our main site. It's satoriprime.com and roam around. We have a ton of free content and we constantly update it. And if you're looking specifically for some mentorship, maybe around your marketing efforts, or specifically on how to use Facebook paid marketing to, let's say, double, triple, or even quadruple your business, then we have a couple of masterminds we run that can absolutely transform your marketing efforts in less than 90 days. So all you have to do if you want to check that out is head over to satoriprime.com/mastermind. All right. So now let's talk about today's show. So my guest this week is none other than relationship coach Jordan Gray. Now I've known Jordan for about a year. He's an absolutely incredible person when it comes to relationships. He actually helps people remove their emotional blocks and maintain thriving, intimate relationships. And more than that, he's just someone that's gifted in the arts of relationship. He coaches some of the highest level entrepreneurs about their intimate relationships. And I brought him on here today to kind of talk to us about a multitude of things. Some of the things we're going to cover are, what are the biggest things that people actually seek him out for? Then we're actually going to delve into some concrete things that you can do in your relationships today to improve them right away. So that getting into any more of it, let's just jump into our interview with Jordan Gray. Hi, everyone. I'm super, super excited. Jordan, I actually can't believe I haven't had you on this Performance Enhancing Podcast before, but nonetheless, you are here. Jordan is an incredible relationship coach. He specifically coaches entrepreneurs or really high-level people. Honored to have you here, my man.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. This is going to be kind of like, most of my interviews where we'll kind of see where this train rolls. But I guess where I want to start is you coach a lot of very high-level people. Now, do you coach both men and women?
Yeah, men and women. It's about 80% of my clients tend to be men just because of how I write. But yeah, I definitely coach both.
Okay, cool. So we'll try to kind of intersperse this because I think our audience is probably 50-50 or 60-40, something like that. But when people come to you, is there kind of like the biggest thing that people come to you for? Is there something specific?
There are a few things. There's more like a big three than big one.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest things is that entrepreneurs do really well in business because they love a high degree of control, which does not necessarily help them as much in their intimate relationships, where kind of the point of intimacy is to let go of control and to surrender to the process. So yeah, control issues. Another thing is that because these people are, such optimizers, or I often call it Superman syndrome, they want to have such a 10 out of 10 in every area of their life, health, wealth, and relationships, that they often put a lot of pressure on themselves to perform sexually. And there's actually a lot of sexual dysfunction, mainly in my male clients, around erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and they're so in their heads, and they're so obsessed with being these marathon men that can, last for hours, that they, again, don't know how to let go of that control
Amazing.
in the bedroom and just be there. Other ones, a lot of people do come to me, although I primarily work with people that are in long-term relationships or long-term marriages. Some people do come to me for like one-off sessions with, are they the right one for me or not? And they basically they kind of borrow my intuition for an hour, and they say, okay, like, here are all my thoughts on my partner. Now, what are you seeing? Do you think that I'm actually into them, or am I just self-sabotaging, or am I thinking my way out of it? And they kind of lean on me to say, yes, it sounds like you're secretly into this person and you're just trying to, pull back because of low self-esteem or whatever. Or, no, this definitely is toxic and you're not crazy and this is not healthy.
Well, that's really interesting because that kind of segues. Jordan, recently, I think, we can talk about this, yeah?
Yeah.
Recently met the woman of his dreams, and about, what was it, like a year ago now? Almost a year ago, exactly.
Yeah.
It was last summer, exactly. We had a really interesting conversation at dinner one time, and I actually shared with Jordan about how I met my wife and the woman of my dreams. And I think I used the words, I created her, and you were like, huh? So when people come to you that aren't, we'll deal with long-term relationships or people that are in long-term relationships later, but I think this is an interesting topic. What would you say now that you've gone through that experience? What had you create the woman of your dreams? Like, what did you have to go through to have her show up?
That's an amazing question. So for this entire calendar year, I kind of set the intention of, like, I'd really realized that in 2013, my biggest overall pitfall was I had spent a lot of kind of unintentional time in relationships that I knew weren't serving me on a deep level. Like they were just like in any, entrepreneurial business, there's the flashy things that you can, like, oh, like, I'm not a writer, but sure, I'll put out 5 Amazon books because I hear those make money, or all these little distractions. And it's so easy for entrepreneurs to lose focus and just put their sporadic energy wherever they want to. And I was kind of doing that in my dating life. And I felt like it was the main incongruent part in my life that, my health and my business were going well. But, I was advising people in their relationships while having this kind of like massive stopgap in my own, dating people that I knew I wasn't going to marry or, be with for any real length of time. So for 2014, I set the intention of really like being as single as possible, if not entirely single, and basically just dating myself and falling in love with myself and looking at all of the dark corners in my mental psyche and shining a flashlight all around and just figuring out, okay, what's holding me back? Why are they holding me back? How can I work through those individual obstacles? And yeah, after 10 months of just huge amounts of radical self-love and self-care and getting my business to a more congruent point in terms of what I was putting out, it's funny. We actually found out after the fact that both my girlfriend and I had written like our lists, our ideal partner needs to have like these kinds of like 10 things. And we wrote them almost within a few weeks of each other. And like we literally manifested each other because we met a couple months after we had written those. Neither one of us with the intention of, I want to meet them soon. But here's the thing I'm just going to put out to the universe. And so, yeah, we met, we started dating. And about 2 weeks into the relationship, we each mentioned that, we had these ideal quality lists. And we read ours like to each other. And honestly, like whether you ask us or like our parents or immediate social circle, like they couldn't have been more the 100% descriptor of the other. Like it was freaky. Like, okay, clearly we're meant to meet each other exactly now.
I just want to go back one thing, because sometimes people hear this thing like dating myself and they're like, what the hell woohoo bullshit is dating myself? So could you just explain what that is actually, what that entails, so people aren't just like, oh, freaking, like dating myself? What the hell does that mean?
Sure. So I really believe in this overall concept of you have to ask yourself 3 questions in order. Who am I? Where am I going? Who will come with me? And, just like the words I love you start with the word I, you really have to know yourself intimately and, work through as much of your emotional demons as possible and just like fill up every crack in your life. There's all these things that I know I should be, going to the gym, or I should be eating more like this, or I shouldn't be binge drinking, every night. Like whatever the things are that we know are habits that are not serving us, or the small wins that we're aware of but not doing at all. Just really filling in every crack in, whatever makes your congruent best life, whatever most makes sense to you. And then I've found that it's exactly in that moment when your life is so ridiculously full, you'd like have to do mental backflips to figure out how to put a partner into your life, that you meet someone that fills in the cracks that you didn't even know that you had.
I love that. It's like that. Did you ever hear that story with the professor where he has like the jars of like rocks and marbles and this and that, and at the end he puts like all that sand in there?
Sand and then water. Yeah. And he's like, oh, it's still getting more full. So if you don't put in the big things first. Yeah, I love that. Totally.
Brilliant. So is there something, because I know when I shared the story with you, I realized that as I was going through this, well, two things. One, you can only learn about yourself in relationship when you're actually in a relationship. So it's like, I know when people break up, that time that you're single, you tend to learn the most about yourself. I agree with that. But then it's like, learning how to shoot a basketball by watching TV and reading books is not being out on the court, putting the basketball in the hoop. And so for that, I think it's very important. And that's true for anything in life, not just dating. It's like, you got to put that thing in practice. So when you're going through these relationships and you're doing all these things, is there something that you saw in yourself that was really kind of like the stop that you said from her showing up? Like, what was something massive that you had to let go of to kind of clear the space for her to show up?
I think there were multiple things, but yeah, I'd say like the biggest ones, like the biggest wins that had to be worked through before I could really, it didn't feel like I couldn't attract that level of person. I wouldn't let myself attract that level of person. Like I knew that they're around, they existed, they were available to me, but because I had such low levels of self-love or self-esteem, I wouldn't allow myself to be loved by someone that I respected or admired.
Wow.
And one of our mutual friends, Brent, actually started to use the phrase roadkill for women that I was dating in my incongruent phase. I was like, why roadkill? And he's like, well, just picture them like they have so like few boundaries that they're just like, they're on the ground, they'll do whatever. They'll do whatever you say. And like, to me, that was it. Like I knew what I was capable of, but I was playing small because I let myself attract what I told myself that I deserved. And so, I really believe that the ceiling of how much we can fall in love with anyone is only the degree to which we can fall in love with ourselves. And, we've all heard variations of that, but it's so true. It's like you won't let in, praise, appreciation, nurturing, love, unless you are first and foremost doing those things with yourself and say, yes, I am deserving of this. I will give myself permission to receive.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I think you can easily make the analogy between that and business. It's like, and money, it's like you only get what you believe you deserve. Did you ever see a movie called Perks of Being a Wallflower?
Yes.
Okay. There's that great line in there is like, we only get the love we think we deserve.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that movie. Amazing, dude. First of all, I'm so happy for you. It's just amazing, like I think people just assume because you're a relationship coach, right? And you said to me even before, you're like, don't call me a relationship expert. And I think that's for the reasons like, who can ever master relationships, right? It's like we're always, it's an ever evolving thing. And so I think people always have this stigma of like, well, if someone like Tony Robbins is this incredible person who's coaching all these people about business and blah, 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 then his life needs to be perfect. And it's like, heck no, you're still human. So I think it's funny that you're coaching all these people about relationships. And in the meantime, they're all probably your mirrors, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Of what you need to go through. And here you are, you created her. So
yeah, I think that's the same with any industry, especially in any version of coaching, is, we all teach what we most need to learn ourselves. I think that there's just the highest degree of irony with intimate relationships, when, like I was mainly by choice, or like for the majority of this time, like for about 4 years, I was like, holding real, like deep, long-term intimacy at arm's reach, because I was like, like I'm still working through my own stuff. And Marianne Williamson actually has this really cool concept about how, if it's like 5:30 o'clock in the evening, and like you're about to have friends over for dinner, if your place is like total pigsty, like totally messy, are you watching TV with your feet kicked back and doing nothing? No, you're probably making sure there's ice and like making sure there's drinks and getting snacks prepared. Like you're preparing the space. And she, kind of draws the analogy that space between relationships is exactly that. It's not fair for you to bring in the vast majority of your baggage into a relationship and say, okay, like I've done no work in between now and then, so I'm just going to project all of my crap onto you and blame you for things that, a girlfriend 8 years ago did, because I haven't self-reflected and I haven't done my work.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So you're in a brand new relationship. Obviously, for those of you watching him on YouTube right now, you can see the smile ear to freaking ear. What is so different about this relationship than any other that you can pinpoint to and be like, this is why? Because you said to me before, it's like, it's so easy. It's so fluid. Why? What do you think is like one or two things that make this so different?
For me, like the meta level reason is like the effortlessness, or what I often say is like the feeling of being compelled versus cornered. And in basically every relationship before this one, throughout my entire life, there was always some sliver in my brain that was like, just like, oh, we should like meet each other's parents, or we should, we should talk about moving in together, or anything to do with marriage. And it truly wasn't just the commitment of it, because I've been extremely relationship minded since I was 12 years old. That's all I've ever known, done. Like I had girlfriends constantly from 12 years old onwards. That was so my thing. And there was always that sliver that was like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm kind of being cornered into this, or like, oh, it's the second or third date, I should kiss them because that's what people do around this time. Whereas, with my girlfriend now, just like every single stage has been so compelling. Like she met my parents after a couple of weeks. Like her mom lives in another city, but like within a couple of days of us being officially dating, I reached out to her mom and was like, hey, let's like hop on Skype, because I'm like, my intentions could not be more amazing for your daughter, and I just need to get in your life as soon as possible. Like there was no like, oh, this might be kind of weird, and this is like a little thingy. I was like, nope, I'm like diving right in. It's the easiest thing. Like I told her, it's like outside of my business, like it's the most easy, effortless, compelling thing in my life that I've ever done.
Amazing. You just reminded me, it was so funny when I met Fanny's parents at her brother's, like the day before her brother's wedding. They had this massive like get together, everyone saying toast, whatever. And it was the first time I met parents, the whole family, etc. And right off the bat, within like 5 minutes, I started calling her mama, because that's what everyone was calling her. Yeah. And I think she had one of these moments. She was like, and I was like, listen, eventually I'm going to call you that. So I'm just practicing for now.
Totally.
You got to create that world, right?
I love it.
This is awesome. Okay. So let's now switch to, before we switch topics, is there any last piece of advice you want to share with people that are out there looking for Mr. or Mrs. Right? Maybe like a pitfall that people fall into during that time, or some sort of exercise that people can do, maybe anything like that you can share with people?
Yeah, I would say just the most important overarching intention is to really build a crazy, happy single life first. And, if you look at your list of the things that are your deal breakers or your must-haves in your intimate partner, like set the intention of becoming those things first and foremost. Like for me, a huge one was like, I needed a partner that was like crazy nurturing. And then when I looked at that and reversed it, I was like, okay, well, that clearly means that if that's a huge emotional need for me, then I'm giving myself next to no nurturing. And so if I attracted someone from that level of, having 0 out of 10 nurturing, then they might have, a similarly unbalanced, almost codependent, like need to nurture, compulsion to nurture.
Yeah.
So I had to be able to figure that out on my own and get my own baseline level needs met to attract a more balanced partner.
I love that. I love that. And you can pretty much look at that from almost any little thing that you're looking for. It's almost like when I coach people, if someone's terrified to go up and public speak, right? And we kind of do this whole exercise and they'll be like, well, I'm creating being courageous. And I'm like, well, that's kind of just a fix. Like you're just trying to fill a gap on top of this whole like fear and insecurity of something.
Yeah.
Who could you be on stage and like, what would that look like? And then that kind of always gives them a different perspective. So that's really interesting. I think
I love what you alluded to there, because I think that action really is the only way out of anxiety. And so if we just have these, but like what if, and this fear, and I'm not this enough, it's like, okay, well, if you're not that enough, whether it's, regardless of reality testing and seeing how valid it is, if that's really big fear, then go test that and change it through action.
Yeah. Got to be through action. Yeah. So I like that. So what did you do, for example, with like the whole nurturing thing? What was the process that you went through?
So rewind a full year ago. And it's funny, when you met me in New York, I was actually pretty close to burnout. And I was relatively more in the startup phase of my business. I've been a relationship coach for about 6.5 years full time, but only online for just less than 2 years. So it's still a young brand. In the first year, I was in like crazy hustle mode startup, schedule. And a lot of it was, like fear-based busy work, but I was doing, like 8 to 12 hours a day of staring at a computer screen, whether it was coaching or writing or, doing a bunch of low leverage stuff. And I think, another one of our mutual friends, Todd, he had this exercise where like you do a bunch of self-reflection, you look at your whole year as a whole. And one of the questions that he kind of put in the exercise was, how many days did you take off in this previous year? And I stared at that question for like at least 10 minutes. I wrote down the number 5, but even that I knew was a lie. It's like I didn't take days off. I didn't take a full weekend in over a year. And it's this whole super damaging and unhelpful mindset of I'm too busy driving to stop for gas. And that was the self-nurturing that was completely lacking. I was like kind of going to the gym, but I wasn't taking downtime. I was barely spending time with friends. I wasn't going to get massages or go to movies or do things that I knew that I enjoyed. It was just push. So that was a huge one.
Wow. So you in balance now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think I haven't been this like fulfilled and balanced probably ever, especially between business and love life. It's just like, things are going well.
Amazing. Do you find, by the way, that people that kick ass in business absolutely suck at relationships mostly?
There's a huge correlation. It's definitely not a guaranteed thing. I know some people that are super optimized and 10 out of 10 in tons of areas of their lives that are just as intentional about their love lives as their businesses. But I definitely think that they are the minority, and they're most of the people. Like those are my clients. Like I have people that come to me. They're never close to divorce. It's my business and health are rocking. I've got a 6-pack. I'm doing 7 figures a month or a year, and my relationship is good. Like we don't need you, but if we're 7 or 8 out of 10, like what are the small tweaks to get to a 10 out of 10 relationship, so that like they logically and emotionally know that when their relationship expands, their business also expands, and it bleeds into their entire life.
Yeah.
So those are the people that I deal with. It's like the action taking, small tweak kind of people.
Yeah. Well, it's always like a very, very small shift that's completely unknown to you at that moment that's going to make the biggest difference. I don't know why this thought just popped up in my head, but you're probably the person that can give this perspective.
Okay.
Women, like super successful women in business. Mm-hmm. What I've seen is that because in a lot of industry, women are minority when they get to kind of like that really high level position, right? Which is sad to begin with, but regardless, that is what it is right now. But I tend to see that they almost overcompensate to try to become more like one of the guys in ways. And what I've known, like I have certain of those women in my life who are like incredible in their careers, like in the top of the top of the top. And they really struggle with relationships. And I've had multiple conversations with them, and kind of what I've seen is that they almost lose their femininity because they're in these high pressure, male dominated positions. So I'm talking like women that kick ass in Wall Street or in advertising or in things like that. And I kind of feel like because they're so hard of the position that they're in, it really affects their love life. Because for a man, that's not necessarily attractive. That might be scary for most men. Do you ever coach women that are dealing with that?
Yes, like you could have described my female clients more like right on the nose. That is very, yeah. Most of my male clients, like over 90%, are in relationships or usually married, and I'd say it's almost the opposite. Where 80 to 90% of my female clients are the like high achieving, entrepreneurial, super driven, highly intelligent type A entrepreneurs that are single and looking for a partner. So yeah, I definitely see a lot of that.
What, just one thing, like, what do you tell them? What do you work on with them?
It's a highly individual kind of setup, but I often use the analogy of entrepreneurs are speedboats. And some entrepreneurs do really crave someone that's almost like an anchor that isn't always on the ground and dragging them and slowing them down, but every now and then can encourage them to kind of like veer off into a little bay, drop anchor, and recharge for at least a couple of hours, and then go back out to being a speedboat. But again, this is the individual part. Some entrepreneurs as speedboats just want another speedboat that is just as fast or slightly behind or slightly ahead of them to run alongside them. So I see both, and I definitely don't encourage these female entrepreneurs that I work with to soften arbitrarily or be like, oh, put on this kind of front in order to attract a partner. Because if you put on any mask to be a new version of yourself, you're going to attract someone that's not aligned with who you actually are. But again, regardless of gender, I see this in my male and female clients, it ties back to that same, you have to let go of control in some capacity. And I find that is usually the problem with the female entrepreneurs that I work with, is not, I can't find a partner at all, because absolutely they're going to be 99% of people, they're intimidated by them and scared off. But I still wouldn't tie it to gender, because most of the guys that we know in common, the exact same way. Like if you're in a very intentional kind of lifestyle, you're going to be intimidating to most people that don't live like you do.
Yeah.
Or the same level of self-reflection, or, just intentionality that you put into every little piece of your life.
Yeah.
So I don't say, okay, be a fake version of yourself to attract a fake aligned partner. It's more, there is value in surrendering and letting go some degree of control in your relationships with whoever you attract.
The funny part is, and you probably have seen this happen multitudes of times, it's like people compartmentalize their life. Mm-hmm. Relationship, health, business, etc. The funny part is, like, when they deal with relationship, for example, and sometimes it could be like something that their parents did or their brother or sister, whatever, like that they had no clue about, right? But they deal with that, and then all of a sudden their business just takes off, or their health becomes like, it's interesting that people do that. And if they just realize that everything is everything, like you work on one, you're working on the other, you're just in life.
Yeah.
The amount. So like for a woman like that, what occurs to me is, in that letting go, that could be the game changer in her business. And she's just completely unaware of it.
Hugely.
Yeah.
So it's funny that, like that mindset. Here's the thing that I hear a lot of from my male and female clients in relationships. Is the relationships are like doing okay, but like they know they're kind of like, oh, I could be doing better, I could be making her feel more loved, etc. This mindset of, when I'm at this level, like when I'm this, like when I'm fitter, when I'm at 6 figures a month, when I'm doing this thing, then I'll have more mental bandwidth I can put towards my relationship. And again, it isn't an X equals Y kind of thing that you're after, but if there was one, I would say it's the exact opposite. It's not, okay, when my business is like completely killing it, then I can give my wife some attention. It's the opposite. Like, I think that putting your intimate relationship first, like that's how you get to those next levels in business and in other areas of your life faster. Because if you're emotionally fulfilled, then that isn't weighing on your mind every day that you're trying to get work done. And like you think and work smarter, not harder, because any partner that you are going to be with in a really aligned, compelling partnership, intimate partnership, they're going to be your therapist and business coach and sex therapist and tons of things all rolled up into one. And so by ignoring, hopefully one of the people that knows you absolutely the best in the world, there's so much power and energy in that is being left off the table. And yeah, it's absolutely that optimizer's mindset of when I'm perfect, when I'm killing this, when I'm crushing it over here, then I can let my energy bleed into this area of my life. And like you said, it's not this area of my life in a box over here. They're all touching each other.
Yeah. I was just, I started listening. Tony Robbins just came out with a new book about mastering the game of money. Yep. And he says this line, Wayne Dyer says it too. It's like, if you can't be generous when you have $1, then if you can't give 10 cents of $1, don't think that you're going to give 100,000 when you have $1 million or 100 million when you have $1 billion. It's just not going to happen. He's like, you got to be generous now.
Totally.
And keep grading that. Good old Tony Robbins. So we'll end part 1 there because that's the portion of, people that are starting to get into relationships or are in young relationships. In the upcoming part 2, we're really going to look at more long-term intimate relationship, people that have been married for a while and things of that nature. So make sure you come back and check out part 2 of my interview with Jordan Gray. And in the meantime, you can always head over to performancepodcasts.com and make sure you get subscribed, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to satoriprime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my eyes and my aching thoughts? Did you walk through walls till you had to grow?